I know more now than at any other time in my I don't want to give up the life I've got again, lose it, what? There's someone in my closet. Room that wants a second chance, and he would. I'd love to come out. The job you're going after is great, thanks, Mr. Burns. I need to tell you though, thank you, as the first soloist, Andy Gibb made history. To have his first 3 songs get to the top. He was with Victoria, a key person. He helped host Solid Gold. By 30, he was already dead. Drugs were to blame. And a broken heart, but his daughter, they didn't say anything for almost 4 decades. As the reports spread, she did nothing. The rumors of death were heard by her. She didn't say anything until now. In the year 2024, she finally spoke up. What she told about her father's last years, even people close to him were shocked. Tis the story that no one was planned to hear. Tell me. Andy Gibb came into the world on March 5, 1958, in a quiet hospital in Manchester. And from the start, he was surrounded by families who lived there and took in music. His dad had once played the drums and led a big band. His mother was a mix of Irish and other things. And English roots that made the warmth in their own home. Andy was the youngest of 5 years old and his 3 older brothers. It was already time for Barry, Robin, and Maurice. Building the link that would turn them into the Bee Gees. Just 6 months after Andy was born, the whole family packed up. They're on a ship called the Fair Sea, Hopes, and in September they set sail for Australia. 1958 as part of a program to help people move. They began in Redcliffe and then in January 1960, they moved to Crib Island. Andy didn't even have time to put his feet down anywhere before the family moved once more between Sydney and Brisbane. And he became the new kid with every step. Trying to get to know a new place. Even so, music stayed close because brothers were already showing up on TV shows and putting out their own early recordings. When Andy turned 8 years old in January 1967, the family went back to England. And this when he stepped into the world, it felt like heights bigger and louder. He had brothers named becoming stars around the world, and stood outside of their London home every day. Andy tried to learn how to speak British going to school. It was hard when his friends thought he had it easy because his brother is well known, even though the stress hurt him more than anyone knew. As the years go by, Australia got less important after him. Those early days sunk deep inside Andy. As a child, I had a lot of moves and new schools and simple times outside that felt very far away from the rise of his brothers were going through. In June between August 1960 and August 1961, the family lived at 244 Nordgates Nudgee Road and Andy went to Northgate School before another one. Their move took them to Surfer's Heaven, then Sydney showed up. Every shift, he had to start over. And while his brothers were making their mark on Aussie TV, Andy spent a lot of his spend time looking, hearing, and thinking where he belonged. When the family went back to England in 1967, the boys of his were moving into the world's attention while he had missed that they had gone through intense artistic shaping. Through. Andy then had to try to catch. He grew up in a world full of fame. But didn't yet belong to him. Going back, and Andy was only 8 years old when he found himself living with a lot of people every day outside their door. And all the noise around, even more so because of the bees, he find a place for himself. Hints that he might were pushed to join his brother. She was too young and too not experienced. He had more than 11 years between him and Barry and more than 8 between him and Robin Maurice, which made the gap heffled. It was hard to go to school as some of his peers were mean to him. Because of how well his brother did, and every time they teased, it felt worse. It happened. Still, he reached for something that was like it was known. 13 years old, he got a guitar from Barry. It happened at the right time. Andy kept it in place. Someone is holding on to life. He worked out until late at night, not to copy the Bee Gees, but to feel like he belonged somewhere. The guitar turned into that grounded him and pushed him in a quiet way toward the thought of a time when Hugh was able to stand on his own. Those strings, they went with him when he left England for in the early 1970s. Pizza was popular. At only 14 in 1972, he was already dancing in bars for tourists where it got loud at night, and the numbers are hard to predict. Those clubs let him try new things and walk and fall without the weight of his family name on him. He played pop songs and early versions of his own songs. Whatever the crowd wanted. He worked. Learning how to pay attention, how to loosen up, and how to get close to someone in a room. Because of Phoebe, the end of 1973, he had a small following and a better idea of who he wanted to turn into. Those years spent in Ibiza shaped him in ways that nothing else could, making it more likely that he didn't should depend on how well his friends. He was free to choose his own way. In 1974, when he was 15, he picked someone else. New start and moved to live in Sydney with Lizzie, his sister. The moment Hugh Hennett got there, he felt good inside. Him. After that, he said Sydney was his. Because it was a spiritual home, feelings of safety, love, and freedom there was a chance he hadn't felt before. He lived a simple life and shared small places to live and spent his days working. Songs and playing in places around town. The city gave him room to grow and breathe. It was busy in the Australian music scene and full of life, and Andy did himself naturally drawn to it. This way. Hugh isn't the kid or the youngest Gibb seeing from behind his well-known friends. Andy was his name. He was a young artist. The right place for him. Over time, the club had opened up even more doors. Killjoy, one of Australia's first rock and roll pioneers, saw Andy's promise and taught him a lot. From 1974 on, from 1975 to 1976, Andy put on shows all over Sydney. His band plays at hotels and bars. The first group was called Melody Fair. The group included artists from the Isle of Man, John Alderson and John Stringer, and they brought Andy to long nights of music, lots of people and always learning. In November 1974, 6 demos were made with Killjoy having songs like Words and Music, Westfield Mansions and Rivers That Flow. This music had the first real parts of who Andy is as an artist. They were more than just music attempts, they were statements he made that he has something to give. Even while the Bee Gees were on top of the charts, Andy stayed grounded in the world scene. Learning in small places that don't pay much, how to get people to like you without based on his last name. At age 16, when he wrote, his work hit a new level, Music in Words. It was his first commercial song, which came out in late 1975 places like Australia and New Zealand. It wasn't a big hit, but it showed which Andy could write, make, and build someone or something without being compared to. Around every corner were Barry, Robin, and Maurice. The song made him feel better about himself. It was the start of a new part of his singing journey. It was all coming together. Andy was get ready for a bigger thing. At that time, got there in June 1976 when Barry called. They told him to move to Miami. Andy didn't think for long. He made a quick choice and married Kim Rear on July 11, 1976, at Wayside Chapel in Sydney. On their vacation, they went to the Bermuda home of Robert Stigwood, in which Barry joined them to begin shaping Andy's first release. By September 1976, Andy and Kim got to Miami, stepping right into the world of creativity that gathered around the beaches. The Criteria Studios was full of life and energy, especially even though the Eagles were there finishing the California hotel. Andy went into that studio and felt the weight right away. The thrill of being in a spot where there was music history being made. The music for Flowing Rivers began to be recorded around October 1976. Andy put everything he had into the sessions, putting out songs he had written while it was his time in Australia. Joe Walsh even played on 2 tracks. Barry only led the record and produced 2 songs in charge of producing, while Albida was made by Galutin and Carl Richardson. Sound in general. The record was finished in a few weeks, with a live band. It had takes, strings, and horns that made it sound like A feels warm and full. When Rivers Are Moving came out in September 1977 and the top 20 of the Billboard 200 and more than 1 million copies were sold. For a start artist, I almost can't believe this. Happiness came over them like a wave. His I Just Wanna Be Your was her first song. Everything made it to the top of the. On July 30, 1977, Billboard Hot 100 and stayed for 4 weeks. Andy Wash is only 19, making him the youngest solo male talent to get there. His second song, Love Is Thicker Than Water, was also number 1 in March 1978. It happened on March 4, 1978. He took over his brother's Staying Alive as top. At one point, the whole Gibb family was the biggest name in pop music. Together. Andy had done something not often. His rise was quick, bright, and history. And even though it came in a lot of pressure on him, it happened also showed that he wasn't just the youngest Gibb. Andy Gibb went into Thay in the winter of 1977. They had something to show, and the moment he walked into those rooms, all of it in Los Angeles and Miami began moving in a way that pulled bring him along. He began to record his second that December, Shadow Dancing, and finished it by February 1978. Being on the same team that had made Barry Gibb his first big hit, it was Albie Gallatin and Carl Richardson who always close by, either in being in the control room or sneaking in from nearby places on movie sets where the Bee Gees play clips for Lonely Hearts Club Band. Hey, WLI Hater one part was filmed in Los Angeles studios. Of the sound in Criteria Studios in Miami picked up the other one, and the places mixed into one long creative stretch. Carl Richardson, the producer, later said their band was so strong that joke that it was the Andy Gibb hit concert band. Harold Coward kept the bass. Ron Ziegler played the drums with no breaks. Joey Mercuria played the guitar. Work with the calm of someone who had done it a lot of times. If Barry Woody tried to get away from the movie set as much as possible, Ollie and I often worked until the sun went down. Hints of mourning. The Atlantic record company The Rhythm section gave the song a soulful feel, heartbeat. Piece by piece, everything was put together. Piece, moving between cities, offices, and discovering that Miami Beach the record had a disco groove that made it feel alive. When the opening song finally came on, released in April 1978, it didn't take long for it to become a hit. Hear What the World Says. Dancing in the Dark reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 on June 17, 1978. It was number 1. After that, it stayed there for 7 days in a row. Weeks. It became the number 1 song of 1978. More than 2.5 million copies were sold. Copies in the US, and Andy Gibb, who was only 20, became the first artist to ever have his own first 3 songs get to number 1. The success was so great that it even passed the Bee Gees' own hits from the same. It did better than Staying Alive and Night Fever on the chart for the end of the year. All at once, he wasn't just a young singer with a well-known family. He was a star in his own right. And everyone knew his name. The record moved along with him. Shadow Dancing moved up to 7th place on the Billboard 200 in the US and did just as well in Canada. It was the only one of his songs to chart in the UK. Sales put it into the multi-platinum range, and 2 more songs made it to the top 10. A Love That Will Last Forever reached number 5, and Our Love Doesn't Throw It All Away got to number 9. Manx for Teens. He splashed his face on their sheets. His name was used in many homes. All over America. Managers and PR people carefully shaped his picture, making sure he always looked clean, cozy, and get ready. Having that picture on you came with a price. It got harder to breathe, and the camera kept following him around. Even when he wasn't sure of himself down below it. Before he became famous, few people knew how much life had changed. I really understood. Andy got married to Kim Rear. In Sydney on July 11, 1976, when she was 18 years old and getting ready for a career that would soon take off. Their Jane J. a girl, was born on January 1.25th, 1978. Just as Andy was about to the height of his fame. The moment made things more difficult. He never found enough room to be fully present for her. Kim later said that cocaine turned into Andy's first love. It gave him a bad feeling. They were far apart, and their marriage ended separate. They split up on January 15, 1978. 10 days before Peta was born, reporters made Kim look like she was being chased. She said it was never about money. She went back to Australia, and how far away Andy is from his child turned into something heavy for many years. Soon after, Andy stepped going out with someone else that would get more people's attention. In 1978, started going out with Marie Osmond. The producer Albie Galutin said right away that it didn't look possible because Andy was deep. Marie didn't even drink, but she was into drugs. Soda. Her family didn't like it, and when Andy flooded Marie, things got worse. Who keeps calling late at night? In the end, her family stepped in and went to court to stop him from calling. Marie later said that felt bad about ending things with a blunt leave a message on the phone. She told him they were done, and that moment hit him like a wall he was unable to climb. For her, the relationship was ending. For him, it hurt him more in a way he didn't understand. How to end. She talked after many years. Talk about how she was afraid of losing herself if she tried over and over to save him. And even now she feels sad when she thinks of him. And thank you. Victoria Principal then came along. In 1981, they met on the John Davidson show. She was 31 years old and already famous on Texas. Andy was 23 years old and had a smile on his face that still made places bright. They look great together in pictures. And for a few months, they became one of Hollywood's hottest lovers. However, below the surface, Andy's drug use was getting worse. She held on for as long as she could, but she told him he should choose to stay sober. And he couldn't. He had a choice. Between her and drugs. He picked the drugs. Both of them were broken. She said she wasn't ready to give up her own life for his drug use, no matter how much she took care of him. All I Have to Do is their song. This is when Do His Dream came out, and it was his last song. It got to number 51. That number stayed the same with him. The breakup did too. Because of when Andy was done with his third record in 1980, After Dark, the fight was already clear. The producers saw the signs. He was going down faster. His drug use pulled at everything he did to do, and his work got worse over time. The record didn't chart as well as his early work. That might have been enough been able to handle, but the drug began to cost him work. Parts in the Jack the Pirate and Joseph and the beautiful Technicolor Dreamcoat fell off away. He missed out on chances to host on Real Gold. Victoria's Last Chance offer it hit in the middle of the storm. The poor result of the album felt like another door shut, and they all shut. The door made him turn even more inward. They broke up in March 1982. Pushed him to fall even more. It took place just days before his 24th birthday. She told him she does not care how much he wants to marry her, they wanted to spend the rest of their lives together. When she didn't choose to be sober, so she stepped gone for good. Andy never got better from at that time. He said she was to blame for his failure in interviews, which convinced the something inside him had been broken by the split. The turn she made was the start of a turn down that no one else could not care. Everything changed after the split. It spiraled. Andy told the magazine people that he broke down and didn't care about anything. It was drugs that made him change. The clock and every day spent around $1,000. That's more than $3,000 today. The drug took over his whole body. Life. He was awake for 2 days in a row. Weeks and wouldn't leave his room. A lot of messages came in from producers who they did everything they could to get him back on the right track. He went to the hospital more often because his stomach and chest the pain got worse. People inside the business world talked about it, and soon no one could hide how much he was falling. It hurt just as much when I lost my emotions. He missed important shows like the American Music Awards, just because Hugh wasn't broken enough to leave. His absence turned into a habit. He missed getting ready for and performing Joseph and the wonderful Technicolor Dreamcoat. He was fired in the end. Pure gold for the same reason, let him go. West End Andy was said by director Zev Buffman to be great when he showed up, but what was wrong was that he rarely showed up at all. His skills were still there, but being addicted took away all of my security. He had already left. Andy Gibbs filled in Solid Gold in 1981 because they thought it would bite. Was the start over he needed. The show was trendy. Marilyn Maku was already a trusted figure, and people are still. Andy stood out as the young star with the beautiful voice. It felt for a moment like a second chance. However, as the months went by, something darker emerged. Kept pulling him away. In the spring of too many tapes had been missed by 1982, and each absence made the producers who kept hoping he was hooked on drugs. Stronger than his plans. In the end, in talks, he said he was doing and he just did a terrible amount of cocaine. Not care about their duties anymore. Fans waited, and co-workers filled in for him. CEOs finally understood what they had not a choice. He was fired and let go. Became the first big public crack in the picture he had made. It hurt his in ways that would be heard for years. After that, he tried to get back up. With Joseph and the wonderful Technicolor Dreamcoat back in 1982. It was a by-God chance to be on Broadway and one that could have made things better for him. To get A for a short time, people thought it might in fact work, but the trend from he was replaced by Solid Gold. In 6 weeks, he missed 12 shows. So often did the substitute step in that Zev Buffman and Susan Ross, who produced the show, to talk to him. He begged them not to. He was fired and told them he would fix it everything. After that, he missed another show. That one missing was the last one. He was a schedule leave, and the door shut on someone else. Chance that he missed. His family could only watch as he was falling and couldn't stop himself. When he knew what was going on. It did. That's not the end. Andy moved to a show in Los Angeles called The Pirates of. I hoped this one would be Penzance, not the same. But the same fight went with him to practice. The missed they kept putting on shows, and by whenever the show went on the road, he stayed behind. Producers said that his not being able to count on attendance him. Now it was the third big. The same thing caused the project to fail. People in the industry started to whisper that you couldn't trust him. What his family saw the hurt that was behind those comments. And even they tried to help, but they also knew how useless he felt on the inside his own drug use. As his work stopped, something even worse took place. His voice, the thing that told Mayhay became famous, started to fall apart. Years of drug use hurt his voice. Chords. His tone, which used to be smooth, turned uneven and worn out. People who knew him saw it. Barry, Robin, and his brother Maurice tried to get in touch with him, but there was more tension between them. They loved him, but every slip-up and missed call, and every promise that was broken, they felt another weight on their hearts. Marie afterward, Osmond said she had to take BGs or being sued to stop them from helping him out with money because she thought they were accidentally helping him. It showed how messed up his life was become, with everyone trying their own way to save him while you watch him fall away from it all. In 1985, his family pushed to go to the Betty Ford and get help. A clinic. It was one of the best habits places in the country. He stayed for 6 weeks filled with therapy and building. And there was for a moment hope. He tried to believe he was leaving, could begin again. But drug abuse did not let go of it. He gave up again, drawn back by sadness and hate for himself that he never fully the man knew himself. The business had a high rate of recovery. Still, he was one of the many people who had trouble after they left its doors. His family felt the weight of that loss because they knew how much he meant to them. Had to get this one win. Along with after the mental harm came the financial fall apart. He made in the late 1970s $1 million. He was getting $50,000 a show. And more than $3 million from shadow dancing by yourself. But drugs ate through his cash as quickly as it went through his well-being. By 1985, he was making only $24.27. It fell even more to $7,755 in 1986. Bills kept coming in and chances kept going away. And he filed for bankruptcy under Chapter 7. The amounts were shocking. His wealth was worth $32.79. He owed more than $1 million before changes made later brought them to $18741. It was free for him to live in an apartment in Florida with extra furniture from his friends. Fame was no longer a thing and the fall left him open-toe-broken. When he filed for bankruptcy, the whole story. The event took place on September 10, 1987. The papers showed that more than $1 million in personal and business bills. The law company Low and Loeb was due $39.94 all by itself. Business Jet Airlines showed up on the $23.85359 is on the list. Medical bills and problems with the IRS came up. As well as fees from accounting companies. Because his holdings were so small, he was to keep only $1,000 in personal real estate. Not even his management firm as part of the filing, with bills of $46,289 and only $236 in value. He was out of everything. His daughter did not receive any cash security from the man who used to be number one. As the years went by, he tried to come back one more time. In January 1988, went to England because Island Records was ready to give him one more chance. Barry helped get it set up. All Andy had to do was show up and sign the agree to. But when he got there, worry took over. He missed the meeting after meeting and began to think he'd have nothing left to give. It was an agreement never signed, and the record never came out. He felt even less sure of himself. Headed record some shows at Mayfair Studios in the early 1980s, but his fear and drug use were stronger than his plans. They tried to Barry and Maurice keep him steady while you call telling him to keep clean. Each missed the chance felt bigger because it was clear that this was his last chance. Still, Andy was still there in the middle of all that chaos. Thinking in little secret ways. In 1987, he got his pilot's license in secret. At the time, almost no one knew about it. Later, it shocked people because they showed that he still wanted a future going beyond just music. He talked to his friends about flying and even about becoming a BGs for their record from 1989. Barry they said in interviews that Andy had determined in a way that people rarely saw. It turned into a secret piece of hope, showing that he hadn't given up on life, even when things were the worst all around him. In March, everything fell apart. 1988. After his 30th birthday in March 5. His health started to get worse. He went to the hospital weeks early, but they left too soon. In March ran into John Radcliffe on the 7th Oxford Hospital with serious chest pains. The doctors wanted to do more tests, but before they could move on, he fell down. On March 10 and never got better. The myocarditis, a swollen heart, was the cause. An old muscle that had been getting weaker for years through drug abuse. His heart doctor, William Shell, told them that his heart they just couldn't fight anymore. Having been clean for over a year, but that the damage from earlier years would never go away. Fans were shocked when they saw that he had been putting together new songs. How his family felt the loss felt like the end because he thought he was almost ready to turn a corner. Andy turned 35 days ago. Gibb was not there. After he died, going to the hospital 3 times in a week. The night of March 9th, Heffel at the home of his brother Robin before they were taken to the hospital right away. When the news came up, the world had a hard time figuring out how someone so young and smart could lose their shine so quick. He had been clean. He had been his body tried, but it couldn't undo the years of stress. The story didn't end with his death. He had a daughter. The boy was only 10 years old when he died because he didn't leave a will. She got married to nothing. She spent most of her childhood she didn't know her father very well. Voice on the phone and a man who showed UPenn came into her life for short stays. A lot of people have said over the years that Andy had killed himself, but they were not true. In 2024, Peta spoke out in public. For the first time. She told him her dad did not just die of heart disease, she said he died because he liked you. Himself. The way her words changed his story was clear to everyone. She showed there was a story behind every news story man whose pain crushed him. In January 2024, she started the official Andy Gibb's home. She said it was a work of love and put pictures in it, thoughts that no one else had ever seen. For the first time, she took charge of his story. The Gibb family backed the project, and fans loved it. Her work pulled Andy's name back into the light, not as a sad figure but as a person who loved deeply and dreamed all the time, and fought in quiet.